Welcome to the podcast Unity. My name is Putini Kim, and with me here is Sophie.
Yes. Hi, I'm Sophie, and we both work for Global Human Rights Defense, which is the human rights organization that DHRTV is part of.
The reason why we create this podcast is because we would like to hear more voices about some situations regarding the youth, particularly the youth participation within the political field, right?
Yeah, because it can be a bit difficult to understand how to be a human rights advocate if you've never seen anybody talk about it. So we thought, okay, hey, let's talk a little bit about what we do, but also, in the future, invite other young human rights advocates so you get a little bit of an insight and maybe even get inspired to get active yourself.
Yes. And I know that there are so many people, like young people, screaming out loud that they need help with even the smallest things, right? Like finding a place to live in, housing. The issue of housing is a big part in the Netherlands, which is considered to be a most developed country, right? But even here we have minor problems, but also we would like to hear more about the unheard stories. The things that we do here influence on the other part of the world. So yeah, I'm really excited to explore with you how and what, and invite some more guests as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is going to be very exciting for the two of us because we are going to share what we learn or what we already have learned, but we will also learn from people that will be coming here onto this podcast.
Yeah, so to introduce you guys a little bit and you as well, I was born in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh. And I left when I was really young. I was 5 years, and then we left the country, and then we landed here in the Netherlands. Actually, today we are here 18 years, which is like, oh wow, time flies, right? And the reason why I want to fight for human rights is because, when in schools, the bullies,
Yeah,
I was like, no, I cannot.
Strong
take
sense
it.
for justice. Huh?
Yeah, it's like, I think a spirit blood was still inside of me from my ancestors. So, yeah, the reason was already given to me. But I wonder about your.
I mean, for me, I think it's quite similar, the sense of justice I always had. And I think with my political interests, I have a political background, so I come from an international relations background. That's kind of my academic background. That combined with a very strong sense for justice and also being based in The Hague, the city of peace and justice, all of that combined together led me down this path of human rights advocacy. Personally, of course, I watched the news and I'm also on Instagram, and then you see, depending on your bubble, you see specific stories. But for example, your story, I wasn't aware of it at all. It's just, there's a lot happening around the world and it can be difficult to get a hang of. And then something else that I have learned so far is how important community is and how important it is to also engage with each other and support each other, because of course you cannot solve all world problems on your own, but you can support each other. And I think, by working together and by sharing our stories, step by step, we can go towards a world that looks a little bit brighter and a little bit more hopeful.
Sophie for president, you guys. Well said. I mean, it's well said. Yeah, gotta give credits to you. It's well said. Yeah, so the funny thing is I was active within UNICEF as well, and I started my activism with LGBTQ plus when I was 15, so a teenager trying to rebel, right? I had fun. The only thing is I wanted to have more advocacy work and more things to do except for LGBTQ plus. So then I moved my focus on climate change. I used to be active in Fridays for Future, and then COVID-19 hit, as well as my hope, and depression hit me as well. Dark periods.
Yeah.
And then so I tried to engage with more NGOs within the Netherlands. It is just really difficult for me to really engage and to be let's say, accepted, because I come from a really confronting, like I come from the third world country, right? Cambodia as a third world country is known for being colonized by France, but also influenced by China and this and that. So for me to step into an organization filled with people who are born in a more privileged country might be really confronting them with the reality that, you know, their government and this and that were influencing our country in a really bad way, and we are still feeling the impact and the consequences of it. So I think that's the reason why they always left me outside. And when I got to learn GHRD Club Human Rights Defense, it was really a different experience. It was like, oh, you come from Cambodia and you are indigenous people in the Sultan of Vietnam, Khmer Kram. Can you tell me more about it? And I was like, oh, this is quite new. It's a trap or not?
Oh, really? Nobody had asked you about your background before? Okay.
No, so but UNICEF is the only other organization who did accept me for being different than, you know, the typical students, let's say, from the Netherlands or USA or Germany or Italy or somewhere else. So advocacy work for me is not only pushing and raising awareness about climate change or any other human rights violation. For me, human rights violation is also taking away access to human rights, to the actual human rights. That is human rights violation itself as well.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the global human rights system, how it's set up right now, it's quite inaccessible, right? So, yeah, I mean, even for me, I would say, you know, I'm very privileged. Even for me, it was kind of scary to go to the UN and try to navigate that. And then when I imagine that you don't kind of have these stepping stones of different types of privilege, it's even harder. So, yeah, I think what we're also trying to do here in this podcast is kind of give a little bit of an insight on how maybe you can take steps to, you don't necessarily need to go to the UN, you know, local activism is also super important, but just how to take up space and how to advocate for your own rights and for the rights of other people.
We would like to hear about your voices as well, because we try to echo your voices and not only our voices, and that's the most important thing that we would like to share here in the podcast.
Yeah, so something that you can drop in the comments is maybe where you're from, what is your background, and what is your biggest human rights concern at the moment.
Yeah, see you next time in Unity Podcast.
Bye!